And the Lord said, the only way you're going to do this is if you change your mind of what what I'm asking you to do. Because when you think about giving up control, about surrendering, about being dependent, about those things, what comes to your mind? What comes to your mind when you hear the words surrender, or be dependent, or giving up control? What comes to mind? In my mind, it feels like I'm giving up. I'm giving up, like I lost. Like, actually, that's what we use surrender for. Like, I surrender. I give up. I wave the white flag. I surrender. I lost. I have to give that up. So that's my view of surrender, is like, you have to surrender these things and you have to lose it. And the Lord was saying, that's not true. That's a lie. That's a lie you've come to believe. And so he was telling me is, what I'm asking you to do is to give up control and to surrender everything in your life. So what he was asking me is everything in your life something bad? Is everything in your life bad? Am I asking you to throw away everything in your life? Your marriage, when I ask you to surrender your wife, am I asking you to throw her away? When I ask you to surrender your kids and lay them down, am I asking you to get rid of your kids? No, he's not asking us that. There's some things in our life that are harmful for us. There's some things in our life that sin that we carry. Those things we want to lay down. And yes, we want to get rid of those things. But he said, those things are a small percentage of what I'm asking you to lay down. I'm asking you to lay down everything. I'm asking you to give up complete control and to lay your yoke on the ground. So then he is saying, if this is what I'm asking you, you have to change your mind about what it means to surrender. Okay, so it was 2016, and my family was going through a very, very difficult time. It was like the valley of the shadow of death, period. You know, my wife had like a life-threatening illness that got diagnosed, and through the surgeries, and then had all these complications coming out of it. At the same time, my children were going through different things, and they were suffering, and then I was going through physical things. I was experiencing a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety. Like, I had these stomach things where I thought it was an ulcer because it was like hurting so bad. Like, I could not even get out of bed for some of these days. And this was our experience. Our whole family was going, every single one. You know, me personally, I just was so struggling during this time because I felt like even though I was going through my own personal struggles, this is when my family needed me the most. This is when my wife needed me the most. This is when my children needed me the most. And I felt like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't be the husband I need to be right now for my wife. I can't be the father I need to be right now for my kids. I can't even take care of myself. How am I going to take care of somebody else? And it's during this time that my church family that I talked about, my previous church, they carried us. They were the Mark II, the stretcher bearers. They literally carried me and my family for almost 6 months. Literally carried us. They were there every day, night and day, whether it's bringing us meals. Sometimes they had to actually just drive me to the doctor, you know, to get scoped to see if I had an ulcer, which I didn't. I knew it was fear, but had to get it checked out. Like, they were literally carrying us during this time. I had never been so dependent in my entire life. Not just on God, but other people. I had never been so dependent. Coming out of this season, the Lord eventually took us out of the valley. And through some miraculous things that I wish I had time to share about, but the miraculous things, the Lord took us out of this valley. And after 2016, in 2017, He started to restore us. And I started seeing new life again. And at the tail end of 2017 and going to 2018, I remember praying this prayer. Okay, and this actually prayer is one of the most pivotal things that I ever prayed in my life. I didn't know it at the time. And actually, when I look back at this prayer, I was thinking, this is a strange prayer for me to pray because I don't think I actually want that. You know, but somehow in my spirit, I wanted this. And so I prayed this prayer. And the prayer was this: Lord, I know what it means to be dependent on you because I have to. I want to be dependent on you because I want to. I know what it means to be dependent on you because I have to, because of my circumstances, because they're too heavy. I know what it means to be dependent on you because I have to, because I feel physically unable. I know what it means to be dependent on you because I have to, because emotionally I don't have the strength to keep carrying on. I know what it means to be dependent on you because I have to, because this situation seems too overwhelming for me. I can't carry this. I know what it means to be dependent on you because I'm so overwhelmed by what's happening with my children. I know what it means to be dependent on you because I have to. But that wasn't my prayer. My prayer was, Lord, I want to be dependent on you because I want to. That's something totally different. I think we've all experienced the former, where we felt completely dependent on the Lord because we had to. Because of our circumstances, because of our physical condition, because of our financial condition, because of our relational conditions. We know what that feels like. We know what it feels like. And God can meet us in that place. But that's not the prayer that I prayed on that day. That's not the thing that transformed my life. It's when I prayed, Lord, I know what it means to depend on you. Because of that, I want to be dependent because I want to. This is where I want to be. This is where I want to be. And so the Lord took me on the journey from 2018, and it's still going today, is to change my mind about surrender and dependency. He's saying, you think this is a negative thing, especially in the West, especially here in California, in the United States, that dependence is a negative thing. The goal is what? Is independence. We celebrate every July 4th. What do we celebrate? Independence, right? What is the goal for retirement? Financial independence. What is the goal for you as a parent? To raise your children, help them to become independent. This country celebrates independence. Celebrates independence, not being dependent. I want to tell you that the Bible celebrates dependence and not independence. That we need to be countercultural. This is not the way society is breeding us and telling us. He's telling us you need to be more independent. You need to work on your weaknesses. And behind that, what is behind that? You need to work on your weaknesses so you don't have to depend on anybody else. The world is saying you need to be independent. You need to be stronger. You need to pull your bootstraps up. You need to get more discipline. You need to work harder. You need to work smarter. You need to get better equipped. You need to learn more. You need to get trained more. You need to do all these things so you can do it, so you can handle it. You can take on all of these things. You can push through all of those things. But the bad thing is, it's contrary to what the Bible says. That we will find our rest when we're dependent, when we're surrendered. We will find our strength and we will find our power and we will find our fruitfulness when we're surrendered. Because when we're surrendered, then we experience His strength. It's interesting. When you look at different passages in the Bible, like in 1 Corinthians 12, when Paul talks about the thorn in his flesh, and he says, I delight in my weakness, right? Because when I am weak, then He is strong. Can I tell you that Paul is actually not delighting in his weakness? God is not asking you to be a masochist. He's not saying like, oh, I love the pain. I love the weakness. I love the trial. Give me more, give me more. I mean, Hebrew kind of alludes to it. It says, no discipline seems pleasant at the time. Paul is not delighting in his thorn. Paul is not delighting in his weakness. What is he delighting in? In the strength that he's feeling. Through the thorn, he's surrendering. He's giving up control. He's saying, I'm not going to do it. You have to do it. I'm not going to be in control. I'm not going to pull with my own yoke. I'm not going to do that anymore. You need to do that. And when he does that, what happens? he experiences the mighty power of God released in his life. What I'm asking you is not to be dependent for dependent self, not to be surrendered for surrendered self. It's for what it's going to produce in your life. When Jesus started speaking to me and revealing this whole idea of me carrying my own yoke, I had this sudden realization. I'm like, oh my gosh. I think I've been carrying my own yoke, and because I'm carrying my own yoke, that's the reason I'm weary and tired and heavy laden. That's why I keep having to come to this passage in Matthew 11. And the reason I'm so tired is that I feel this load is too heavy and I get worn out. And so what I would do is I would pray this very Christian prayer, which is what? Lord, help me. Lord, help me. But what was I really asking is, Lord, help me come to my yoke and help me pull. I'm tired. This is too heavy for me. Come join my yoke and help me pull. And then Jesus said, that's not my invitation to you. This is not what we're supposed to be praying. We're not supposed to, well, there's two kinds of Lord help me, okay? I should pause and say, there's two kinds of Lord help me. There's Lord help me because I cannot, I need you to do it. That one's okay. The other prayer is, Lord help me, come to my yoke and help me pull. That one's not okay. But that's the one I found myself praying. I'm tired, Lord. Come help me. But what am I really saying when I'm asking that? Can you come to my yoke? It's heavy. My yoke is heavy. I need rest. I need you to come and help me. And we don't feel like we're praying anything wrong. It seems like a very Christian prayer to me, a very good thing. And I think by his grace, he does honor it. He does come do that. He does come help us. But that's not his intention. That's not his invitation in Matthew 11, verse 29. His invitation is, take off your yoke. This is the reason why you're so tired. Lay it down. Lay it down. It's okay. You can lay it down. It doesn't mean you're giving up. It means actually you're going to experience rest and power and strength. You know, when I hear about things on the mission field, and I love that this church is like so singularly focused on mission. I love that. And I hear just even this past summer, like I got a lot of the updates from the missions teams and really like miraculous things are happening. Miraculous healings are happening. Salvation is happening, which is a miracle too. And when I've been on missions, and you probably experienced this if you've been on missions, you know when you're on missions, you're very dependent. You feel very dependent because you know, I can't do this. I can't heal anybody. I can't save anybody. You're very dependent. And when you're in that position, what happens? What is the fruit that comes out? God's power comes out. God's fruitfulness comes out. Amazing, supernatural, miraculous things that you cannot do come out. So we need to get rid of this mindset that somehow surrendering is being passive, somehow being dependent is being sitting on the couch and not doing anything, and being weak and being giving up and losing. That's not true. It's the opposite. When you surrender, then you'll be empowered. When you surrender, you'll have more life. When you're surrendered, you'll experience more of his power. That's why when you're yoked together with Jesus and he's inviting you to work, that it's going to produce rest. Because you're not the one in charge. You're not the one pulling. He is. He's not the one. You're not the one having to supply all the power. You're not the one supposed to give all the wisdom and all the strength. He is. But there's a prerequisite for us to experience that. And what is it? You got to take off your yoke. You got to lay it down. And it can't be something that you feel like is a negative thing, or you won't do it. You won't do it unless you're forced to. And that's what Jesus was saying. You need to change your mind about what it means to surrender and be dependent. He had given me this picture one day as I was praying. And this picture was of me lifting up my kids. So I had my son and my daughter in my hand like this. Okay? And then it's funny how the Lord talks to me sometimes. He says, Sam, look at you. He said, as I was going like this, trying to lift up my kids, he said, look how short your arms are. Right? I was like, okay, Lord, yeah. He said, look how short your arms are. They're too short. They're too short to lift them high enough for where I want them to be. Your arms are too short to lift up your kids where I want them to be, because I have a high calling for them in their life. Your arms are too short. He said, lay them down so I can lift them up. Lay them down, not to throw them away, not to cast it aside. Lay them down so I can lift them up. Lay them down so I can lift them up. Can I tell you this is a common theme that we see throughout the Bible? James 4:10. Those who humble themselves shall be exalted, but those who are proud shall be exalted, but those who humble themselves shall be what? Lifted up. Philippians 2, talking about Jesus, talking about this mindset that Jesus had, who humbled himself, surrendered everything, gave up all his rights as God, laid himself down. And what happens after that? The Lord lifted him up. Physically through the resurrection, and then lifted up to the highest place above every other name. God doesn't ask you to lay it down, to humble yourself, to surrender, to keep you down. He asks you to surrender and lay it down so he can lift you up. Higher than you can lift up yourself. This is the mindset shift you need to have. You need to pray the prayer that I did, which is, Lord, I know what it means to be dependent on you because I have to. I want to be dependent on you because I want to. I want to experience more rest. I want to experience more of your fruitfulness and power and joy in my life. I want to experience more of what you can bring instead of only what I can bring. You know what the Lord told me? He said, you feel like when you give up that you're going to lower your sights and you're going to give up on all these things. He was telling me the reason you don't give up, the reason you don't do those things is because your bar is too low. The bar for your life is too low. Your bar is only as high as what you think you can do. Your bar is only as high as what you think you can accomplish. And he was right. When I thought about the vision for my life, or vision even in ministry, even to my shame, I said, that's true. My idea of a God-sized vision was, what is the most I could possibly do? And let me add 10%. That was my God-sized faith part. Let me add 10%. And God was saying, you don't need me for that. In fact, you don't need me for any of these things because your bar's too low. We need to raise our bar. We need to expect more from this Christian life. We need to expect more from this Christian life. We need to expect more from a God who's able. We need to expect more from a God who's capable. We need to more from a God who's supernatural, above natural, not human, not limited by our human physical bodies and our human physical strength and intelligence and pushing through and all of these things that the world applauds and even the church applauds. No. If we do that, we're going to set our bar too low. Who wants a life what only you can do? That's not the life that God called us to. God called it to a life where it's so high that you cannot reach it. That's supernatural in power, that you experience the supernatural touch of the Lord on a daily basis. This is what happens when you surrender and you give up control. Don't feel like it's a loss because it's not a loss. Don't feel like you're giving up because you're not giving up. You're actually wanting more, not less. We have to get this straight because the enemy will come and to really bring all of these lies into your mind. You're being irresponsible. You're being too passive. You're not being a good worker or a good husband or a good mother because you're not going out and to try to fix things and you're not trying to make things happen. The enemy is gonna have a field day. You're gonna speak that to yourself too. Oh, I'm lazy. Oh, I'm so lazy. I can't be lazy. I need to do more. You will do more. You will do much more when you surrender, when you give up control.